So here we are again with the Stanley Parable. This is my third stream on it, which I'm thinking should be my last. We're still stuck, so to speak, in the Stanley Parable 2 universe, the Ultra Deluxe universe here. And after my last stream, I had gotten quite a few endings. First stream was mostly proper Stanley Parable. Second one was the Ultra Deluxe part of it, a lot of it, which they're leaning into Stanley Parable 2 for. And got a lot of endings with that, and it was all a lot of fun. By fun, I mean, psychologically damaging. So I looked up to see, what's left. What do I have to do? Because right now, when I start up the game, I get this. And I'm thinking, what if one of my friends comes over and wants to start the Stanley Parable fresh? Or, they can't really. They can't really, right? Because they're here. And they'd call me a liar, and they'd say that this isn't the Stanley Parable, this is the second one. So, that kind of led me to go online and see, okay, is there an actual ending to this? And the answer, of course, is there's many endings to this. We've seen a lot of them over the hours. There does seem to be, though, a true ending, so to speak. And there's a strategy that I looked up to get that true ending. I just don't know how long it'll take. But the goal seems to be to play into the narrator's thing of collecting the Stanley collectible figurines, which, if you watched the previous stream, is man, this is hard. Okay, it's an element they added for fun, much like the bucket was added for fun, and then the bucket ended up being a character that made my life really, really, really sad. Not Stanley's life in the video, my actual life, very sad. So I guess if you collect all of these figurines, then you, according to the internet, you get a proper ending. And I'm curious to see if that's going to happen. I'm curious to see if I can do it in one stream, because according to, excuse me, mic issues, what I've read, everybody's kind of like, maybe I'll do it. At the end of my last, point of fact, at the end of my last stream, when I thought I'd kind of gotten everything, Duck, one of my followers, pointed out, you didn't do the audio cassette ending yet, and I was like, well, that's not a thing, and then it turns out that was. There's so much to this game that I guarantee, even after I get this, that I will have missed, and I will go back and play and find things, and it'll be lots of fun. But my goal here is to try. Okay, mission statement time. My goal for this is to try and get all 6 Stanley figurines, collectible figurines, and see if that does something. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe I won't get them all on this stream. Maybe other things will happen. It's impossible to know with this game. But I'm excited. And maybe I'll get all 6 and I'll get the true, and it'll still start back up with Stanley Parable 2, and then I'll just have to uninstall and reinstall it or something. Maybe that's how you really really win the game. Without further ado, what am I at? Am I under 8 minutes for an intro? That's usually what I do. There we go. Okay. I am under 8 minutes. Let's give it a go.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Here we go.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Another thing I'm looking for, because I was perusing online, is whatever room 435 is. If I find it, I'll tell you why. If it's not a thing, then you can't judge me.
The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together.
We are, but this time it's serious. Okay.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Not this time.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Alright, so first thing I wanted to do...
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
So the first thing I wanted to do anyway was from a tip from chat last time, was to go this way. But what I didn't do was, when I noticed this, I didn't follow this along. So I kind of wanted to see what this was going to do. Precarious though this may be, turns out it's right. There is a collectible here. I'm hoping it's like 6 out of 6 and I don't have to do too much more of these.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
I'm gonna go Figlies, obviously. That's brilliant. Well, if that's 4 out of 6, then I'm only missing 2 more. And I don't know which ones I've gotten, which ones I haven't. So this is gonna be a bit of a journey. And, you know, a video game. That's what this is gonna be. This is gonna be like playing a video game in which you do things. Now, this is where I went last time on the advice of chat. So I feel like I'm just going to have to get this ending again. Which is fine. We're going to go through multiple endings. I've already planned on that. And I do quite enjoy this ending. Although I haven't done it without the bucket, so feel free to skip this if you're watching this on VOD. I'm going to watch this and enjoy every second of it.
Okay, this is day number 295, tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get me. What's that? Who's there?
What Netflix would describe as squelching noises. No, his name is Stanley. Very close though. Alright. So we did that. So the problem I have now is that I have 4 out of 6 of these things. And I know where I've gotten a few of them. And now I just have to figure out everything else.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay, you know, real quick, I'm going to try and do that ending without the bucket.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room.
I know
and
we all
Stanley
love
knew
listening
it
to the
perfectly
narrator.
well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow. Yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Then I'll get back to the game after I see what...
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten.
You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
To be fair, in Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, when it turned out that the whole thing was just in her head the whole time because it was a vision. Or his head, I guess. The vampire guy. I was like, whoa! to be fair. Not in a good way.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
All right.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Oh, that's so sad. So, if any of y'all happen to see room 435 somewhere, which I'm pretty sure ain't a room, but if it happens to be, so it might know. That's silly. Okay.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay. That's the one I was talking about earlier, which, like, there might be a thing if I find that room. You know, I was talking to a fellow streamer, Zython, the other day about this, and how wonderfully Valve this is in terms of storytelling, how Half-Life and Portal this is, in which the story is kind of just, you stumble upon it. Oh, I need to steal that slide. I need to make this a picture or something. But the bucket's in the way. Oh, just like in real relationships. See, this is giving you, like, clues. This is... the name of this, for the record, is literally... in a folder called Clues. myclue.jpg. Fantastic. Already done the broom closet thing.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
I feel like I got the one in the staircase before, but I'm not sure. So, I haven't. Aha!
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler Anmarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler Anmarines. None of us can.
That's my goal. So, now things are even trickier. So again, for anybody tuning in, if anybody hasn't watched the previous streams, I'm trying to get to the true end game of this. Like the actual true end game of Ultra Deluxe. Which anybody who's watched any amount of gameplay of this will tell you, well, there's like 38 end games. It's not true. There's exactly 2, apparently. There's one that you can do, the only actual end game, in which you just follow the narrator's instructions all the way through, never question anything, do exactly what he says, go through the gameplay, and you get to the end in like 5 minutes. I think you actually get a trophy for speed running it in under 5 minutes. And you just escape and you win. In Ultra Deluxe, from what I've read, if you collect all the we keep changing the name of it. Call them Stanley figurines. Then you get a proper ending as well. Like an epilogue ending. And that is my goal on this stream. I thought it was going to take a lot. It probably will still take quite a while. I know I only have one more, but the problem is I kind of forget which ones I've gotten and which I haven't. And do I have a strategy guide in front of me? Yes and no. Yes, in that I know where the figurines are to be located. No, in that I don't know which figurines I've already gotten, and I don't know what I did to get them. So, little column A, little column B. That's okay. So, I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna go through that ending again. But you know what? No, because I didn't do it with the bucket. And I'm gonna see if there's something that's different.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Wow.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
So worth it. I almost didn't do that. I already seen that ending. All new dialogue.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
So, again, here's the problem. Is that I have one more Stanley figurine to find. I'm not going anywhere without you, buddy.
A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
I should be taking notes. I could use that line. So, okay. So they kind of give you one for free. There's one in the boss's bathroom, which I found pretty easily because that's the first place I go on any of these playthroughs. I just find it comforting in there. There's the one that I just got. Which leaves two options. There's one across the elevator when you go down to the mind control area. And then there's some sort of open closet near where the blue and red doors are. But I feel like that's the one I haven't gotten. The thing is, I don't remember how to get to the blue and red doors exactly. So this is gonna... This is going to be exciting watching.
Tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
I think... Boy, if I have to look up a strategy
on that... Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Maybe it was down here.
Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
Oh, but...
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Wait, what? All right, well, you know what? This is new.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about.
Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
Oh, I did. Oh, I do remember this. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna do something different this time. And you're just gonna have to wait and see what that is. I'm gonna give in.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
It's the first time through. I
I
would
think
not
it'll make a
sacrifice
wonderful
my
new
bucket.
addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
This time?
Can you
I'm gonna do
guess
it.
what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
For the record, I am doing this because it's a new ending. This still does feel horrible.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality
It doesn't want.
trait. Sure, I can hear you
Let me
saying,
do it.
how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its
Oh,
desire
that's
to
funny.
crush buckets is so
really
densely
was going to
loaded
give it
with
to it.
complexity
Oh,
and
now I feel
nuance that it's
bad.
really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this.
I just jump in
Okay,
with
the
it.
Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Wow. Yeah, so first playthrough, I absolutely refused. I kind of ran away with my bucket. I wouldn't have even
Bucket
known that you
Destroyer.
couldn't.
My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Okay. We're gonna keep on keeping on. Ah, dang it. All right, fine.
Ah, the embrace of an old friend, a weathered companionship that stands the test of time. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No,
I am gonna
never
find my
mind.
way.
The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
It's so
said the
funny
bucket.
because on the first
don't
playthrough,
go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
on the
Stanley did
first
not question
playthrough,
why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have
I
alarmed
was
him, of
able
course,
to do
because
this.
buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact.
Like, it
He
was
was
just, like,
firmly convinced that
naturally
the
the
bucket
first thing
had
that
spoken
happens
to
is you
him,
get-
and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket?
Okay, so I've already done this
that would explain a lot about your behavior
tragically.
up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This
Maybe I need to do this
misunderstanding
without
could
the
have
bucket.
dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Okay. I do love this part, though. So it's still working.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket?
See, now I know the answers to this.
Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 3. Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket?
It still makes me...
Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was starting to get concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay, next one. Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket.
I got them all right this time.
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
So this is the one I think it doesn't really think matters.
Trick question. Both.
That's right.
Gotcha.
It's both a bucket and not at the same time because no one's observing.
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Yes. Thank you. There's nothing here. Of course it isn't a bucket. We both know full well that nothing isn't a bucket. Wait, when I say nothing isn't a bucket, that makes it sound like I'm saying everything is a bucket, which of course is not true. Unless... Is that what you think? Answer me straight, Stanley. Are you trying to tell me that you believe everything is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin
Not a
with.
bucket.
I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket?
My God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
All right. It's time. It is time.
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
All right. Give me just a sec here. Listen up real quick. You know what? It doesn't matter. I think I know what to do. I think I know what my purpose is now. To be honest, I think I've always known what it was.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach. Giddy in a way, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
I sort of feel
Look, Stanley,
sad
I think
skipping
perhaps
over
we've
all
gotten
this.
off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing in your trust
this
in
is a
someone
game
else
now.
can be
Like,
difficult.
I'm playing a video game
but the fact
now.
is that the story has
Doing
been
a
about
thing.
nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley.
You want
Someone
fun
you've forgotten. What?
videos?
Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
If you want to know about Stanley Parable, watch the first 2 videos. This one is straight gaming. I'm gonna get the ending I deserve. Okay. Except for that I've already forgotten what I need to do. Hold on. I mean, I'm here. I need to make sure I'm the right here.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
There it is. The last collectible Stanley figurine. Hopefully. I'm going to be really sad once this is done.
And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly.
That's
Savor
not
this
even...
moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here, and now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
What was I doing? Wait, what? Oh. What was I doing? You know, I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember which door I went through the first time. I think it was the blue. I'm gonna go through the red.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for?
I actually don't think I've gotten this before. What?
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy. No, wait. Where are you going? Oh, no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
Oh, my God.
Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
Oh, my gosh. I was going to say Ultra Deluxe was dark, but this is from original Stanley. Is that a door? Do I have an option to even try to not kill myself? I should always ask that. Do I have an option to try and not kill myself? Well.
No! Oh, thank God you lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please get back to the other room?
Hey, my legs are still working. Right.
No. What are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
Because interdependent relationships are toxic.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
That's me shaking my head no.
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game?
It's about
You'll throw
you,
yourself
right?
from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
Again, to go back to my first stream, my first playthrough, to which someone commented, there are no toxic relationships, there are only toxic situations. A relationship can be a situation, and it can be toxic. And I will absolutely prove my point on this. I will die on this staircase.
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along.
Oh.
But I guess that was too much to ask.
Yeah.
It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours.
Ooh, that's manipulative. Oh, I hate that so much. That's so mean. How many times have we chosen the door? How many times has that other person said, you know what, I've done my best. Whatever you want to choose is up to you. And that'd be the final manipulating knife that they stick in your back. No. Absolutely not. And for more therapy, tune into my future streams. Oh, it's making me walk slower now. Oh, this is heavy. Yeah. No. Can't force someone to be in a relationship with you.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
I am really happy that I did that. That was weirdly cathartic. So much of this game has been traumatizing. That was not as traumatizing as it looked.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
The memory zone. Oh, I love the memory zone. Oh, this is so sweet. Zone, sweet zone. Yoink. Oh, wow.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
Oh, that's right. This is the one it gives you.
And here was a second Stanley. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the boss's bathroom. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then, I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini-stand? Can you remember?
With well, the warehouse one I did tonight, so it would have to be this one, I think.
Hey, that's exactly right. It was here, behind the boss's office. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything.
Hey, incorrect. Although that is another line I'm going to use.
Let's see. What
what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh, well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone. So it
Yeah,
must
this
have
wasn't
happened.
a thing that... But alright. Pink room. This is just... It's a little too much, you know? Wasn't really emotionally ready for any of this.
This was the 5th mini Stan, and this one was really something special. It was under the stairs. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
Oh. I am speechless. All right.
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
Oh, this is... You know what? I just have to do this first. I don't know. You know, I'm gonna get my Stanley figurine before this, because I'm scared if I don't have them all with me. Alright, so what's this all about? You are in the present. Fair enough.
And then there was no more. Because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
Okay.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
I don't like it when you talk to me like that.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more.
You know, the point he's making is very valid in terms of collecting things in video games and completionism. I get it. In fact, there's another game that I play on this channel sometimes and in my free time sometimes, in which I got to do a lot of things and reach a certain achievement and collect things. I get that. I'm not a collector personality. I've only gotten one platinum trophy in one video game in all my life. Really, I don't like the judgment. It's
And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
gosh.
Yes, I love that video.
To be fair, it is actually a lot more fun than a lot of the side quests and stuff in other video games that I've played. So I'll give it that.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room.
I mean, it really is.
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
It's just it ends how it begins. The beginning is the end is the beginning, right? It's still so toxic. It's still so bad. I wish I could think about something else. I wish I could just go on about what I usually go on about in terms of breaking down this video game and all of its different moral lessons. But even intertwined with this whole collectability, trophy gathering nature that it's, making fun of here, or pointing out, it's just still highlighting the whole toxic narrator, user relationship, and it's maybe that's a me problem. Someone put that earlier today. Maybe I'm the one that's reading too much into that. I don't think I am, though. It's just every time I start to like the narrator as a character, it just reminds me of...
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going.
Reminds you why you leave in the first place, you know? You don't go back.
This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
This is actually sad. This is like a breakup. This is like a sad, hard, not comfortable breakup. This is, yeah, the exhibit room.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more. More memories.
That's so sad. This is actually depressing.
Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
Yeah. Except for it doesn't mean anything. Oh, it's my office.
And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Wow.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
That's intense.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all. Blackness, and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Well, happy, sad. That's how I feel. I think there's a couple endings I didn't get. There are certainly trophies that I did not get. But that, dear friends, is the Stanley Parable. More or less. We got pretty much all the endings. Any of the other ones, you know, that I didn't go through, they're out there. There's other streamers. There's YouTube. There's Hulu. You know, you can check those out. But this was it. That was the epilogue ending, and I did one last playthrough for a true ending. You know what? Let's see if I can.
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Just a matter of time. The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things.
Still one more thing I'd like to try and do.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
That I don't think I've done before, but we'll see.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Maybe I just remembered the keypad numbers because I've entered them so many times.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
We're getting out of here, Bucket.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support. What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms.
No.
Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Wow. Well, all right. So I just wanted to, we got another ending there. But that's it. That's the Stanley Parable on my channel. So anything, there are at least 3 other things out there. Anybody who's watched all 3 of these videos, either live, and I know a lot of you have, thank you, or on my Third Glass Gaming YouTube, thank you for being with me on this horrific, what was the word, soul-rending journey. The end is the beginning, and the beginning is the end. I will pick back up with streaming. Look forward to the next game. And this is it for Third Glass Stanley Parable. I hope we all learned at least one of the 50 things that this game tried to teach us.